Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, which is Read Along with THAVENESH. And you are with THAVENESH in Read Along with THAVENESH. Okay, so today we'll be reading the story called Race Across America, and it's by Geronimo Stilton. Most of my stories will be by Geronimo Stilton, and some stories will be by some other authors. But most of the stories will be by Geronimo Stilton. A sub-publisher would be awesome, and great. Let's start. So this is the first page. Okay, this is the last page. This is coming first. I don't know why. Yes, this is the first page. The Race Across America. Okay, so the first page is this. To Geronimo Stilton, chapter number 1. It had been a stressful day at the office. By 6 o'clock, I was exhausted. As I scampered home, I thought about taking a nice, relaxing bath in a cup of cheese-scented bubbles. Oops. I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton, and I am the publisher of the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island, the Rodents Gazette. And I also love to read and write books. When I arrived in front of my mouse hole at Mouseford Lane, I noticed something unusual on the front step. Curious, I bent down to check it out. It was a package. Could it be for me? I hope so. I love getting packages in mail. I picked up and read the tag. It was for me. Who could have left this here? I wondered aloud. I picked up the box and went inside. Then I ripped off the brown wrapping of the paper. Once I got the box open, I was dumbfounded and I was a little disappointed. Bicycle handlebars? Who had sent them to me? More important, what was I going to do with the bicycle handlebars? You see, I'm hardly what you call a sports mouse. My favorite hobby is curling up with a good book. So why would someone send me bicycle handlebars? It was a mystery. 2 pedals. The next day, I woke up bright and early. I went to the bathroom and took a warm shower just like always. Then I headed into the kitchen and got myself an apple and a nice cup of hot cheddar, just like always. And I left my house whistling, just like always, and headed to my office at the Rodents Gazette. On my way out, I tripped over something on the front step. Before I could stop myself, I fell flat on my face. Ouch. I got up slowly, rubbing my tender snout. That's when I realized I had tripped over another package. I read the tag. I decided to do as the tag said. I went back into my household. I tore open the package. Inside, there were 2 bicycle pedals. 2 pedals? Who had left them for me? More important, what was I going to do with 2 bicycle pedals? It was a conundrum. A bicycle helmet. Chapter number 3. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I'm not completing chapter, but just chapter. Okay. I was still thinking about the 2 anonymous packages as I headed towards my office. But as soon as I walked into the door of the Rodents Gazette, my staff swarmed around me. There was no time to ponder the mystery. In fact, by the end of the day, I had completely forgotten about the weird gift I had received. Late that afternoon, I had checked in the last page of the Rodents Gazette, signed by several important documents, and wrote a few chapters of my new book. When I arrived at my mouse hole, I found yet another package with the same tag. I scurried inside and ripped open the package as fast as I know. By now, I was determined to get bottom of all of this. It was a bicycle helmet. Who had left it for me? More important, what was I going to do with a bicycle helmet? It was a puzzle. As I moved it over, the doorbell rang. I went to the door. Who is it? I called. No one answered, but then the door burst open. I hope you like riding bicycles. Chapter. Howdy, Geronimo. Happy to see me? The mouse on the other side of the door gave me a hearty slap on my back. Ouch! It was my friend Bruce Hyena. Bruce is the spottiest mouse I've known. I've got a proposition for you, Geronimo, Bruce said. It's something that needs lots and lots and lots of enthusiasm. You like riding bikes, right? And if you do, slap me a five. Timidly, I slapped him a five. Yow! He slapped me so hard, my whole paw ached. I do like riding bikes, I said. They've got really nice bicycle. I've got a really nice bicycle that has a whisker basket in the front. It's perfect for carrying a picnic and a book. Wicker basket? Bruce said incredulously. I'm in a racing bike, you cheesehead. You know, a serious bike meant for a bike for wheel miles, not a bike for spin in the park. I smiled. Bruce, you know what a book mouse I am. I like a quiet life. Quiet life? You'll have to squeak goodbye to that for a while. You see, I've already signed you up for the race across America. The race across America? I said blankly. But that sounds like, that's right, you bet, Bruce interrupted. We'll be riding our bike across the whole country. No sweat, right? But, I sputtered. My head began to spin. Rat munching rattlesnake. Do you know how big America is? Of course I do, cried Bruce, giving me another hearty slap on the back. A trip like that should be a breeze for a couple of buff sport mice like us, champ. I opened my mouth to protest, but no sound came out. I think I was in shock. My head began to spin, 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 spin. The history of the bicycle. The first bicycle was invented in 1861 by the French mechanic Ernest Micaus. It was called the velocipede. The velocipede had pedals mounted on a large front wheel. This helped the riders travel very fast with very little effort. Modern bicycle was born in 1880 with the invention of the chain which transfers power from the bicycle's pedal to its wheels. A few years later, rubber bikes tires were added. Tires made ride biking a lot more comfortable. Before they were invented, cyclists rode on wheels made out of wood or iron. Today, racing bicycles have narrow tires, curved handlebars, and most important, a gear mechanism that makes it easier to pedal up even the steepest hills. These bikes are made from light, ultralight materials like carbon fiber or titanium. Every piece of the bicycle is designed to be light as possible to help improve the rider's speed. What is the race across America? The race across America is the longest and most strenuous bicycle race in the world. It's an ultra-marathon race that's more than 3,000 miles long. Cyclists pedal for 9 to 12 consecutive days, some resting only 1 to 3 hours every day. The race starts on West Coast near San Diego, California, and ends on the East Coast. The exact finish line changes from year to year, but was mostly recently in Annapolis, Maryland. The race requires an incredible amount of physical energy, but mental concentration is absolutely essential. In fact, some people believe that the mental concentration is the most important factor of the race. Cyclists climb more than 1,000 feet along the race courses. Participants must paddle across California and Arizona deserts, enduring brutal temperatures that can reach as high as 105 degrees Fahrenheit. These then racers must face the Rocky Mountains, the plains of Kansas, and the Appalachian Mountains on their way to the East Coast. It's easy to see why the race across America is considered one of the most difficult race challenges in the world. The most challenging races in the world. Number 1, race across America, 3,000-mile bicycle race across the United States. Bended Globe. Number 2, the Bended Globe. Begin in 1989. In this famous race, sailboats sail around the world without stopping. The race begins and ends in France. Erie Trail Sled Dog Race is an annual sled dog race in which mushers with team of 10 to 16 dogs cross Alaska from east to west, covering 1,600 miles in 8 to 15 days. Next, The Ironman World Champion. The Ironman World Champion is the world's most oldest, longest, and the most prestigious triathlon. The first Ironman competition was held in Waikiki, Hawaii on February 18, 1978. Competitors might swim 2.4 miles, bike 112 miles, and run 26.2 miles. Oh, that's a lot. Records for the race across America. Riders can participate in the race across America as individuals or as part of a group. An individual cyclist travels about 430 miles a day in approximately 22 hours. In the race, 26-year history, fewer than 200 solo cyclists have finished the race. In 1986, P.T. Pensseries set a world record for biking 3,107 miles in 8 days, 9 hours, and 47 minutes. A cyclist burns an average of 300 calories an hour, a total of 7,000 calories a day during the race. Uncle Geronimo, you are my hero. Chapter. I didn't remember saying yes to Bruce's plan, but I must have, because the next day he pulled up in his car and whisked me off begin in training. But Bruce, I have to go to work today, I protested. I'm needed in the Rodents Gazette. Nonsense, Bruce shouted. He dragged me into the bike store. Before I knew it, he bought me an outfit made especially for races, a cycling shirt, shorts, socks, and special bicycle shoes that latched onto my bike pedals. Okay, let's get going. Say, I want you to meet the team that will be by our side throughout the race. They are all good rodents. You see, Bruce stopped in front of the rodents. The entire staff was waiting for me. They all seemed to know I was going to be riding a race across America, and they came out to show their support. My cousin Trap, my sister Tia, and my little nephew Benjamin were at the front and the crowd. Benjamin ran to hug me. Uncle Geronimo, Bruce told us you are going to America to race. You're my hero. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged him close. What could I do? I couldn't disappoint my favorite nephew. It looked like I had to rave, whether I wanted it or not. NMC, the team. Bruce took advantage of the moment of weakness to introduce me to the team. Hey there, said a tall thin mouth wearing a cowboy hat. I'm Tex, team's general manager, and we've organized a system to monitor you at every step of the way. Put on these mini microphones. They'll connect you with a camper that will follow you while you're racing. Tex showed Bruce a tiny microphone that was attached on a long wire extended from a very small battery. This way, if you need our help, we can get to you fast, Tex explained. Team NMC. Mousy McMonison, known as Renchi Murr. First is Shorty Tao, Bruce's cousin, a world karate champion. She works for the Rodents Gazette. Number 2, Mac Moo. Number 1 is actually Tiger, our second man driver, a quiet, unassuring mouse like Geronimo. Number 3 is Mac Maserson, known as the Ranchero. Mousy is a cameraman planning to film the entire race for a documentary. Buzz is Team's NMC's mechanic. He's been crazy about bikes since he was 9 years old. He runs a shop called Bicyclist Boutique. Number 5, Teco Anderson, our second TV cameraman. He got his name because of his love of Mexican food. 6th, B-Dog. Our trainer, B-Dog, is an expert at fixing sore muscles. All he has to do is take a quick look at and he can tell exactly what the problem is. Next, Mousita, Middleton, and Betty Smart Mouse. Mousita and Betty work for the Rodents Gazette. They organize the trip down to the tiniest detail. Iron Mouse, our first driver, an athletic, well-rounded mouse who is also a triathlete. T.X. Stockington, the team's general manager. Thanks, but I bet I won't need it. I've been training for months. I got nervously. Tex turned to me. Sorry, Geronimo, but you'll have to carry an older version. We just have we just gave out our last ultralight one. Oh, that's all right, I said. I wanted to show Bruce I could handle anything. Then I saw Betty's Tex wanted me to wear. It weighed at least 75 pounds. Oh, what I had gotten into myself. But how will I be able to carry this and pedal all those miles? I stammered. Bruce slapped my shoulder. Don't worry, champ. It's all part of training. Training hadn't even begun, and I was already exhausted. Tex smiled at me sympathetically. You'll be just fine, Geronimo. Inside the camper, we've got all things to help you rest and recover when you are not cycling. Plus, our trainer, V-Dog, is the best. V-Dog said thoughtfully. Looks like I've got work cut out for me. I can see you've got very small muscles. I'll fix you up in no time. Do you know what my motto is? What doesn't the bend gets broken? I began to sweat. Before I could respond, Bruce has dragged me away to show my bike. Don't you want to meet your new best friend? He said. The two of you are going to spending a lot of time together. Everything you need to train for bicycle racing. A helmet, special bicycle shoes, a spare inner tube, tools for remove tires, Allen wrenches, water bottle, energy food bars, a rain jacket, a cell phone, a little money. Good for you, champ. Chapter. Bruce showed me to my bike. It was not fancier than the one I used for picnicking in the park. It was sleek and silver. Come on, champ, said Bruce. Let's take her for a spin to relax the paws. That didn't sound so bad. I climbed on the new bike. Just sitting on it made me feel like a professional cyclist. Oh, I almost forgot to mention something. Bruce said there are a few 20% inclines on this course. 20%, no sweat, I replied enthusiastically. That sounded like nothing. Bruce sat me on my back so hard, he almost knocked me over. Good for you, champ. Look at this photo. Oh my god. If I would have been going here, I wouldn't have climbed this high thing. Oh my god. We paddled for hours. After 5 miles, I was out of breath. After 15 miles, I had cramps in my paws. After 25 miles, my mouth was so dry I had heart. After 50 miles, my back was so sore. I wanted to scream. After 75 miles, I wanted to cry. After 100 miles, I fell off my bike. Finally, we stopped for a break. I panted. What does 20% incline mean? Bruce laughed. Well, in the bicycle racing, there are 3 types of incline. The easy one, the hard ones, and the very hard ones. 20% incline is one of the hardest. I thought you knew that, Geronimo. By the time we arrived home, I was totally exhausted. Holy cheese, I couldn't wait to get off my bike. I hopped off, but the straps that held my paws onto the pedals didn't release. I toppled over and landed right on my poor tail. Bruce looked at me. You know what, champion? He said confidently. Maybe I'll go for another little ride. I can't sleep if I don't ride at least 150 miles. He waved cheerily and pedaled off. Bruce Haina is a good friend, but I'll never be so glad to see him go. What if we move, Mr. X? Chapter. The 2 weeks of training were more painful than anything I could have ever imagined. But whatever I thought of giving up, I remembered the look of Benjamin's eyes when he called me his hero, and I kept at it. Finally, the big day came. The entire NMC team was ready. We met at the New Mount City airport with our enormous suitcase. We had to take apart our bikes and put them in special cases so they could fit on the plane. We boarded the plane to find every seat was taken. The team was spread all over the place. That didn't make Bruce happy at all. He was determined to sit next to me so we could talk strategy. I'll ask someone to switch seats with me, he offered. Oh, it's okay, Bruce, I said. I thought about a book I packed in my carry-on bag. I had been busy so cycling. I've been so busy cycling. It felt like ages since I curled up with a good story. Listen, Jam, this may be our last chance to brainstorm before the race, Bruce said. We've got 16 hours and we are going to need every minute, Bruce said. Bruce asked the mice on either sides of both our seats to switch with one of us, but no one would. So Bruce pulled out a scrap of paper and started to figure out all kinds of ways to move rodents around so we could sit together. Look, Geronimo, if you move Mr. X here, then we can switch Mrs. Y here, and seat 21 will be empty. Then we can ask Mr. Z to change with Mr. H, then there's Mr. Q, who will only sit in the window seat. Can you believe the nerve of the rodent? Pretty soon, everyone on the board was complaining about those. Flight attendant had tell him to take his seat and quiet down. I breathed a sigh of relief and I pulled out the final Betty Potter book. At last, some peace and quiet. But not for long. After hours, Bruce appeared on my side. Peace, psst, she said. He hissed. Don't forget to keep your paws loose. Try these exercises. Exercises to stretch your limb while flying. Head. Massage your temples. Place your fingers in your eyelids and press gently. Neck. Turn your neck from right to left, then from left to right. Shoulders. Raise the shoulders all the way up to your ears. Back. Bend your torso all the way to your knee. Arms. Bend one arm behind your head and push it down with another. Feet. First raise your toes, then your heels. Pull each knee towards you. Twist to the right, then to the left. Hope Hospital. A few hours later, I was starting to feel a little lonely. Bruce caught my eye and came over to talk to me. Geronimo, I've got something to tell you. I'd never seen my cheerful friend look so serious. What is it, Bruce? I asked. You know you can tell me anything. Well, I've been volunteering for a while at the whole hospital, he said. I was surprised. I had no idea he'd been volunteering, but it made sense. Bruce Haina likes to talk big, and he has a big heart to match. I work in the wing where children with leukemia are hospitalized, Bruce went on. Leukemia is a disease that attacks blood cells and prevents them from fighting infections. So I was thinking, why don't we dedicate this race to the mouselets of the hospital? Race to the mouselet at the hospital. I've lined up some few sponsors who will help us to raise money. That way, we can really help the little heroes who fight leukemia every day. We can do it. Can't we, Geronimo? I was truly moved. I hugged my friend Mommy. Bruce, that's a great idea. We can definitely do it. I can't sleep. Next chapter. Another hour went on. The lights were dim. I looked around me. Everybody was sleeping. Even Bruce was snoring. I knew I needed to rest a little before we landed. After all, I had quite an adventure in front of me. So I closed my eyes and tried to doze off, but no luck. I called the flight attendant and asked for a cup of hot cheddar, thinking that that would help me to relax me. No, but no luck. At the end of the flight, I looked frazzled and Bruce looked like he'd returned from the trip of the restful rodent spa. It wasn't fair. I tried crossing my legs, no luck. I tried putting down my head on a tray in front of me, no luck. I tried hugging my knees and resting in my head, no luck. I tried throwing my legs over to the acer armrest, no luck. I tried curling up into a fur ball, no luck. I tried pushing my knees to the seat in front of me, no luck, no luck, no luck. Welcome to San Diego. Chapter. We landed in San Diego, California. I was totally zonked, and not just because I couldn't sleep. The time difference really made me feel terrible. You see, it was 9 a.m. in San Diego, but in New York City, it was midnight. So as soon as we got to the hotel, Buzz, the mechanic, immediately started putting our bicycles together. While Buzz was busy, I figured I'll read this brochure first. Now. California, San Diego. California is the third largest state in United States. After Alaska and Texas, it is also the most populous. One of its largest city in San Diego, which is located at the southern tip of the state Pacific coast. Spanish explorer Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo first sailed into San Diego in 1542, hoping to find wealthy cities known as Cibola. Today, if you walk along the waterfront of the Embarcadero, you will reach the Martine Museum, which features one of the finest collection of historic ships in the world. One of the ships there, the Star of India 1863, is the world's oldest working ship. I take a little rat nap in my room. Geronimo, where do you think you're going? Bruce bellowed. He blocked my path. Well, I had trouble sleeping on the plane, so I thought, I stammered. You thought you'd start the day with some solid training, isn't that right? Good for you, Geronimo. I see the fire of enthusiasm in your eyes. I like it. Let's go for a nice jog. Bruce is the mouse who knows what he wants, and I could see that I wouldn't change his mind. So I dragged myself to my room to change into my tracksuit. 5 minutes later, we were running along the waterfront. Despite my exhaustion, being outdoors perked me up. California. The brilliant blue ocean seemed to stretch on forever. The seaside was gorgeous with white sand that the photo needs the water. Where is Geronimo? Oh, there. Hi. Who is this man? Why is he running like that? Okay, so go next page. Sparkled in warm sun. The beach was dotted with sunbathers and surfers. It felt good to move my arms and legs again after being so cramped on the long flight. Bruce was right. Exercise was just what I needed. I darted ahead, spurred on by marvelous sights. After a few minutes, I heard Bruce saying, Nemo, we out for Ole. I turned and shouted back. What did you bang? I ran into a pole. Maybe jogging wasn't the best cure for jet lag after that. You must be the MSC cube. Okay, so this is the next one, next chapter. I don't think so. I'll be dividing this into chapter 2. Also, if you're watching until this long, Saturday's channel will be awesome and just great. Around mid-morning, the entire NFC team gathered in our hotel lobby. We were on our way to Cruise America Camping Company to pick up the camper crew would use during the entire race. Cruise America's owner, the Mickey, was waiting for us at the door. You must be the NFC crew. I've got your camper right here. It is the last one left on the lot. You can sign lease while I get the keys. So Bruce signed the lease and Mickey took us to our camper. It was enormous, but it was dirty and dilapidated. This is the one. Team NFC, got a spare tire, got a water pump, got a trunk, got a driver's cabin, got vents, control inside temperature, got table, got kitchen, got bathroom, got night table, got bed, got shower, got refrigerator, got soft bed, and got a bed. The rest of the team was as grossed out as I was. But Shorty Tao just said, okay, gang, with an elbow grease, we can make these dumps spick and span, so roll up your sleeves and get your tail into gear. We all went to work, we washed the floor, we scrubbed the counter and the walls. We shook, beat and fluffed. After everything was spotless, I cleared out the entire place. Finally, we went to pick up some cheese for the trip. I was starving. Bruce, where are you going? I asked. I don't know. I'll tell you later. I said, okay. Finally, we went to pick up some cheese for the trip. I was starving. Finally, we went to pick up some cheese for the trip. I was starving. By the end of the day, I was wiped out. But the camper need to tackle the race across America. And after the good night sleep, I'd be ready to. Next chapter. On your mark, get set, go! The big day had finally come. I woke up nervous but excited. At the starting line, the atmosphere was electrifying. Everyone was bustling about checking their bikes, fitting their helmets, and making sure their water bottles were filled. Some of the contestants were looking over the route on the big map. Bruce, Buzz, and I were busy tuning our bike so they'd be in tip-top competitions. We inflated the tire, greased the chains, tightened the screws on our handlebars, and adjusted the seats so they were just right. After the bikes were ready, V-Doc called us over. Hey Bruce, Geronimo, I'm going to give you guys a nice relaxing massage. Geronimo, you first. I scurried into the trailer. I love massages. Sorry guys. And then I love massages, but this turned out to be the least relaxing massage of my life. V-Doc twisted and turned me inside and out, or at least that is what it felt like. By the time he was done, I could feel every muscle in my tail and not in a good way. Just as Doc started it on Bruce, we heard the loud squeaker calling us to our place. No massage for Bruce, the lucky mouse, but I was too excited to care. It was time. It was the time. We put on our helmets. We decided I would start off the race. I was relieved, but because the first leg was the least difficult. I joined the other cyclists at the starting line. Bruce slapped me on the back so the both of us. So where Geronimo? So Geronimo is this guy. You know this guy? Can you see this guy? Yes. So hard, it was a miracle that I didn't fall over. Ready, champ? Remember, pedal fast and smooth. Make sure you concentrate, and above all, keep a steady rhythm. I nodded. I couldn't believe the race was finally beginning. I closed my eyes for a moment and thought about my dear nephew. My dear nephew, Benjamin. I smiled and how he'd say I was his hero. I smiled and opened my eyes again, and I was ready. The voice on the loudspeaker told us to mount our bikes. Ready? On your mark, get set, go! Welcome, Arizona, chapter. I had just begun pedaling when the rest of the contestants passed me in a flash. Rodents all from all over the world had come to compete in this race. It was truly an international event. As we passed one another, we smiled and wished each other good luck. The open road stretched in front of me. The wind whistled through my fur. What an adventure! For the next several days, I'd be sharing the same destiny as the rodents from countries all over the world. Our hearts would beat the same rhythm of strain and pain. We would all share in the same excitement. It was thrilling. As we started out, I felt good. Whatever V-Doc had done to my muscles had really helped. Plus, I had spent the last few weeks training with Bruce and the rest of our team, and I was in better shape than I'd ever been. And last but not least, I had eaten a hearty breakfast of oatmeal right before the race began. Before exercising, it's good to eat meal rich in carbohydrates. The landscape around me was breathtaking. I immediately settled into the steady pace. I smiled. I could hardly believe I was really here, competing in the race across America. After a few hours, we turned into the Route 66, the most famous highway in United States. I had already cycled around 130 miles. In a while, Bruce would switch with me. As the sun started to sink, my paws began to ache. It was beginning to get dark, and I realized we'd entered the Arizona desert. There was a full moon, but nothing for sand but sand for miles around. What a beautiful night. Cheer up, cheesehead. Sorry guys, I forgot to read this. Route 66. But okay. Route 66 is the most famous highway in United States. It was established in 1926 and is nicknamed the Mother Road. It begins in Chicago and ends in Los Angeles. Route 66 is across 8 states and runs more than 2,000 miles. Jack Kroc wrote about it in his famous book On the Road, and the highway was also immortalized the song of Bobby Troop. Get your kids on Route 66. She said, I was getting hungry, so I radioed the taxi and bus. They were all following me in the team car. They pulled alongside me, handed me a cheddar sandwich. Cheese had never tasted so delicious. Biking hundreds of miles can really make a mouse hungry. Hey, Geronimo, is everything okay? Asked Tex. You look tired, just a bit, I replied. I can ride a little farther. Do you need any more water? Tex asked. A strong hot wind was blowing. It was 105 degrees and it was nighttime. It was hot, but I didn't feel thirsty. No, I'm okay, I told Tex. But a few minutes later, I knew I was in trouble. I hadn't followed B-Doc's instructions. He had told me to sure to drink plenty of fluid. Suddenly, I had terrible hot flash. My lips were parched and I was completely dehydrated. And I had high fever. Cheese like this, I felt really sick. Must not have had enough water to drink. I must not have had enough water to drink. The team car suddenly appeared alongside me. Tex and Buzz must have noticed that I had slowed down. Take heart, Geronimo, Buzz said. Bruce will relieve you. That's when I realized the camper was on my other side. Bruce tempered up. He looked out, fired up, and ready to go. Cheer up, she said. It's my turn now. He reached out and gave me a slap on the back. And then everything went black. I had fainted. When I came to, the first thing I saw was B-Doc. He was bending over me. Geronimo, did you drink enough water? He asked. No, don't tell me. I don't want to know. You didn't, did you? I was mortified. I really didn't know what to say. I felt like a mouse who had just been caught with his paw in a cheese jar. And now I was being scolded, but I hadn't done it on purpose. I just forgot it. V-Doc looked at me sternly. Geronimo, because of your mistake, Bruce has been paddling for the last 8 hours. I was shocked. Jumping Gerbil babies. I've been out for 8 hours? V-Doc nodded. Bruce knew you weren't feeling well, so he asked not to be relieved. He told me not to wake you. I felt terrible. I couldn't believe I let my friend down like that. I had to do something. I needed to get well quickly so I could help Bruce. Please help me get better, V-Doc. I'll do whatever it takes. V-Doc smiled. Good for you, Geronimo. I knew you were tough. I'll give you a nice rub down and you'll feel a lot better. My turn. V-Doc was right. As soon as I finished with my massage, I felt ready for anything. I strapped on my gear and dashed to the front of the camper. Ironmouth was behind the wheel. The mice in the car to pull over. I need to switch it, my friend, I told him. Done, Geronimo, Ironmouth said with a grin. I put on my bike helmet. Once the camper pulled over at the curb, I jumped out. Bruce had stopped a few feet ahead of me. He was taking a deep drink for his water. He turned and gave me a tired smile. Hey, champ, he said slowly. I'm glad you're feeling better. I hugged him. Thank you for looking out for me, Bruce. You're my true friend. It's my turn now, so slap me high five if you need to rest. Bruce grinned and slapped me five. Grinned and slapped me five. I knew he must have been exhausted because it didn't hurt a bit. I winked at him, then jumped on my bike and sped away. The Grand Canyon. I felt so much better. I paddled a mile after mile, and I remembered to drink a lot of water. I was unstoppable. Soon we arrived at the Grand Canyon. Bruce was supposed to relieve me there, but I was determined to let him rest as long as possible. I'll keep going, I told Tex. Let Bruce rest a little longer. The road was filled with 20% inclines, but the view was spectacular. I should have been sweating my tail off, but this fantastic landscape made my aches disappear. The walls of the canyon were very, very steep. Tex radioed and told me that some of the canyons were as much as a mile deep. The ridges carved by the thousands of years and ice, rain, and wind. I couldn't believe how lucky I was to be seeing this incredible place with my own eyes. Of course, it was a very hard work, but breathtaking panorama made it all worthwhile. I really owed it all to my best friend Bruce Heiner. If he had trained me like a drill sergeant, I would have never had the strength to take on those steep hills. You want me to read this? I don't want to read all this, but just for your information, the Grand Canyon is a World Heritage Site in the state of Arizona. It is considered one of the wonders of the world. The canyon is huge track rock that averages 4,000 feet deep for its entire to 227 miles. It is 6,000 feet deep at its deepest points and is 15 miles wide at its widest points. So guys, shall I continue? The canyon was formed by the path of Colorado River over the past 5 or 6 million years. Over time, the canyon's walls grew wider and wider from the summer sun. I think my friends I won't be reading this anymore. This is my last one because we have also a lot of we have almost half the story to complete, and we are still. Yeah, I don't really read this. You can also go to the Google and read this. But here the story. The Colorado River cuts through the Grand Canyon. It begins in the Rocky Mountain National Park and flows approximately 1,450 miles to the Gulf of California in Mexico. Its waters change color from red to blue to green, depending on the weather conditions and the different sediments in the riverbed. As soon as I zoomed along, I noticed a camper by the side of the road. It was the Swiss crew. My crew and I stopped to give them a call. What happened? I asked. The Swiss team manager looked anxious. One of our camper's tires is flat. He replied, if we don't change it fast, we'll have to pull out of the race. I turned towards Bruce and the rest of the crew. Everyone looked exhausted. But I could tell they had what needed to be done. Their courage and determination All right, rodents, we've got the teamwork to make the dream work. Cried Bruce. Cried. Why am I reading so bad today? It's okay. Continue. Faster than you can speak, crumbling cheddar cheese strips. We had the tire fixed, and that Swiss crew was ready to move. They thanked us profusely and sped off. Okay, champ, it's time to switch. You can't keep the children out of the rat race any longer, Bruce exclaimed. He gave me one of the famous slaps on my back, and I almost fell over. That's how I knew he was back to full strength. Cheer up, Chatterheads, he told the rest of the team. I feel stronger than ever. I'll fly over the next miles. Let's go. And with that, he was back on his bike when racing away, as though all the cats on the Claw Island were on his tail. He was more than a mile ahead of us before we caught up with him, and we were driving in the temper. Just like the old cowboy movies. Chapter! I settled down in the camper's tiny kitchen for a nice snack. As I munched on a mozzarella ball, I looked out of the windows. We were in the Monument Valley. Red rocks were bathed in the setting sun. What a beautiful sight. I felt like it was in the old western. Buzz and I called Bruce on radio. Howdy, partners, Bruce shouted. I guess he shared my love of all cowboy movies. It's very windy here. I can't go faster than 15 miles an hour, even when I'm going downhill. As we drove, Mousy and Taco, the two cameramen, had their cameras rolling, filming the spectacular scenery, and Bruce kept, look at this. I don't know what this is, but I know what it is. This is the camper, and I don't know what this is. This guy is following him from the just now. I told you I don't want to read this, so you can go to Google and search. But this one I'll tell you. Some of the most famous western of all time shot right in the Monument Valley. Stagecoach, My Darling Clement, Fort Apache, Shiva, Yellow Ribbon, Rio Bravo, The Searchers, The Man Who Loved Liberty Balance, How West Was Won. Now that's talking. Even though he was still paddling hard, he really is mouse of teeth. In fact, he started telling a joke. Okay, listen to this one. There was a spot mouse just like me who went to his house friend, a book mouse like Geronimo, and said, "Want to do a marathon with me?" His friend asked. How does it work? So the spot man explained. Well, we have to cover about 26 miles so the book mouse week. Fine, but you have to drive. I'm too tired. Ha ha, I rolled my eyes. What can you do? That's Bruce for you. From 120 degrees to 40 degrees. I laid down to sleep for a little while. It was important to rest while I could. I was so exhausted I fell as soon as my head hit the pillow. I woke up a few hours later feeling rested and refreshed. 120 degrees. It was time for me to get back on my bed. Just my luck, we were beginning right at the beginning of a huge mountain range. We had crossed the Colorado border. I'd gotten used to the heat in the desert, where it was 120 degrees Fahrenheit. But here in the mountains, the temperature dropped down to 40 degrees. Right, Manjung Metal said. It made the work of the pedaling by twice as hard. I panted and I pushed one paw in the front. On the other, holy cheese, how I wished it was still Brewston. The steep road up the Colorado mountains was more than 35 miles long. I thought it would have never ended. As I huffed and puffed along, the weather suddenly turned to sunny to cloudy. Brrr. It was even colder. Just then, I got a flat tire. Before I even have a chance to radio the crew, Buzz hopped out of the car and scampered over to me. Before you could speak, chewy China cheese chunks he'd fix my tower. Laughter is the best medicine. After a while, we arrived in Durango, a beautiful town in the mountains. The landscape was dotted with pine trees and junipers. As I paddled through the city, a real old-fashioned steam engine train puffed by tooting its whistle. I was starting to get tired, so Bruce and I switched again. Now we were heading towards Kansas, and I was hard to believe, but we were almost halfway through the race. The further we biked, the more excited Bruce and I became. Even though we were both worn out, the crew was free too, and they were feeling a bit down. So I decided to try to lift everyone's spirits the same way Bruce had, which was by telling jokes. I'd had plenty of time to think of some up while I was racing along my bike. Our grandfather, William Shortpaw, was a big believer in the power of laughter. When my sister and I were very little, he always used the thought, "Remember, Mouselet, if you feel down, the best medicine is laughter." Soon we were all laughing our tails off. Okay, so this one I think I'll read because jokes, right? Why are you? Why are you riding with? Okay, I'll zoom in because I can't see this actually very clearly. Why are you riding with a dog on your handlebars? Asked one mouse. I can't ring because the bell's broken. I don't understand anything of this. I think I'll go on with the I think I'll go on with the normal one. Yeah. Jokes are just jokes. Jokes are just jokes. Jokes are just jokes. So we'll go next. Bruce heard the jokes through his headset, and he was laughing so hard tears rolled down his nose. Now, even Tiger, who was driving the camper, was doubled over with laughter. All those chuckles and chortles made the next leg of the trip speed by. Soon we were in the Dodge City, the heart of Old West. Bruce had been riding his bike for several hours, so it was my turn. Over the course of the race, I really started to enjoy riding at the night. I spent the time plotting out my next few bestsellers. The gorgeous scenery really inspired a lot of great ideas. I was so busy brainstorming, I hardly noticed how hard I was working. Sometimes I'd be so busy dreaming of books that I forget I wasn't really alone. Every once in a while, Mike connected to the camper would crack up. Hey, Cheesehead, how's it going? Bruce's hearty voice boomed one evening. Then Bruce grew serious. Know what I was thinking, Geronimo? There have been so many enormous hills in this race that made me think of all uphill struggles sick mouselets have to face day after day. When you compare our struggles in this race to the ones the young minds of Hope hospitals are facing, it makes our hard work seem like nothing. If those mouselings can do it day after day, we can do it, right, champ? Right, Bruce, I replied. I smiled, even though he couldn't see me. That was why I liked Bruce Harina so much. He was a great motivator. Pedal, pedal, pedal. Chapter. After a long night of pedaling, Bruce and I stood by the side of the road, getting ready to switch the scrambled up to us. Hey, you road rats! I was just the one to radio. Hey, you road rats! I was just one on the radio with the organizers. There's only one team ahead of us, and they are just 60 miles ahead. Do you know what that means? Bruce did. We can win! He shouted. Geronimo, we can do it. We've got to do all this mouseling. We got to do this for all this mouseling at the hospital. There was no time to lose. Bruce leaped on the bike and raced away. Bruce and I became too lean. Biking machine switching every 2 hours. The last few states flew by. When we reached St. Louis, Missouri, we saw an authentic riverboat docked on the Mississippi right from the front of the famous high steel arm. Then we arrived in Annapolis, where Indy 500 takes place. Next, we pedaled to Ohio, concentrating on the rhythm we needed to overtake the races ahead of us. Pedal, pedal, pedal. The distance separating us from the first place was getting shorter and shorter. Soon, we were only a few miles from Annapolis, Maryland, where the finishing line was waiting. But just when I saw the signal, Annapolis, 20 miles, something bad happened. Krusty Kitty did it was bad. No, wait. The word bad doesn't do justice to how terrible it was. It was awful, ghostly, horrific, and dreadful. One might see even it was a disastrous. It happened like this. I was pedaling along with Tex and Buzz behind me in the team car. At this point, we'd been pushing ourselves nonstop for more than 24 hours. And that's how Tex and Bus turned into the wrong road without me noticing it. No big deal. Well, the race rules says each team's car has to escort the cyclists to the finishing line in Annapolis. Otherwise, the team is disqualified. A breathless finish. Last. I think so. I think so. This is the last chapter. Must be. I love it because right. Normally my video, this is my third video, but normally my videos might do in two parts. But this one I just finished in one part. So this one of my videos. Okay, so practice finish. When I realized the car wasn't behind me anymore, I almost fainted. It's a good thing my shoe clips held me on the bike. And said, Redhead, what could I do? What? I turned the bike around as quickly as I could. Then I began pedaling harder than ever before. I didn't use the brake once. I was like the wind. I passed my crew in the camper. I radioed them to tell them what happened, and they stopped to cheer me on. Bruce was standing outside the camper. He said, Go, Geronimo, you can do it. Finally, I saw the dot far away on the horizon. It was coming to me. It was our team car. Go, Geronimo, go, Tex shouted. Faster than you can speak, orange cheese, stick dipped in the fondant. I turned around and started sprinting in the opposite direction. We were back on track and heading towards the finishing line. I never pedaled faster in my life. I was dripping. But there it was, the finishing line, and there was just a few yards away, a cyclist team ahead us. Just a few yards, Mira, just give me a minute. Just a few yards. But there was it, the finishing line, and just a few yards away from it was the cycling team ahead of us. I was so close, I knew I could catch up with him, but this was the final stretch. They were all the fans. They were my crew about to cross the finishing line. At that moment, I tried to accelerate, but my front tire hit the rock. At that moment, but suddenly I was flying. My friends together, miles forever. Here's what happened next. Because of a rock, I flipped through in the air and landed on top of my opponent's head. Then I tumbled onto the finishing line. Then my flying leap onto the finishing line helped me finish first. We had won. Bruce and the entire team ran to hug me. They were so thrilled and ended up being more tackled than a hug. Soon the whole team was piled on top of me, but I didn't care. Yeah, shrieked Tex. We did it! Bruce was hugging me so hard I thought he was going to crush my ribs. When I told you trick to winning was to arrive second before the rodent in the first place, I never thought you'd take me literally. He gave me another tail-crunching embrace. You are champ now. We hugged each other, then I turned and embraced all the members of the crew. One by one, the victory was for everybody, not just for me and Bruce, not just for Bruce and me. We never could have done, not just for Bruce and me. Never could have done it without our team. At the awards ceremony, we called the whole crew onto the stand with us to receive the trophy. Shorty Chow, Patty, Mousita, Tex, B-Dog, Iron Mouse, Tiger, Chaco, Mousy, and Buzz. Bruce winked at me. You know, Geronimo, it took more than muscles to win this race. It took heart, and we've got lots of that on this thing. I grinned at him. Then we joined hands with our teammates and shouted an old new Mount City motto. Friends together, miles forever. Hey, she said, I was still sleeping. That night, we had a big dinner to celebrate our victory. The next morning, we all boarded to our plane for the flight back to Munuma City. I couldn't wait to get back home and tell Benjamin, Tia, and Shep all about our adventure. Psst, hey, she said, Bruce whispered. Let me fight if you are sleeping. I rolled my eyes. Bruce, how can I slap you fast if I'm really sleeping? Good for you, champ. I've always knew you were a brainy mouse. I smiled at him, then leaned into my snug against my seat and tried to close my eyes. In just a few hours, I'd be in my home in a cozy mouthful. Psst, psst. Hey, she said, are you sleeping? This time I couldn't take it. No, I'm not sleeping. You won't let me. I'd woken up the whole plane, and they were angrier than a mouse whose cheese had gone moldy. Who taught you manners, Rabbit Tomcat? Rabbit Tomcat? Be quiet. I was so embarrassed. I wanted to crawl under my seat. Bruce just ignored everyone and leaned in closer. Well, since you're not sleeping, I was thinking of something. What do you say about organizing another fun adventure with me? I've got a bunch of great ideas. How about my mountain bike trip through the Patagonia or a trek through the Valley of Dinosaurs? Or we could do a nice little run on the North Pole. Huh? What do you think? I had to laugh just thinking about all those trips. It's making me tired. Bruce, good night. The real hero. When our plane landed in New York City, my entire family was waiting for me in the airport. At the airport. In fact, half of the New Mouse City had turned out to welcome us. I was so happy to be home. Benjamin jumped up to hug me. Uncle, gee, I knew you could do it. I love you so much. I kissed the tip of his whiskers. Then he gave him a tight squeeze. My sister gave me a big hug. I'm so proud of you, Gary Berry, she whispered. Then my prankster cousin Tab looked happy to see me. I could tell he was busy trying to think up jokes to make, but at my expense, of course. So before he could speak, I gave him a Bruce style slap on the back that surprised him into silence. I wanted to go straight home, but Bruce insisted we go to Hope Hospital first, and I was glad he did. But because all the sick Muslims whom we dedicated our victory were waiting for us, they welcomed us like we were real heroes. But the fact was, they were real heroes. They were the real heroes. That's why Bruce and I decided to give our little friends our trophy. Those mouselets were the ones who showed us real courage to face life. Even though they were sick, these mice found strength to keep going. They never let their suffering bring them down. For these young mice, every day was new day rich with possibilities. Bruce presented the hospital at his minister's big check for all the money we raised. I could see tears shining in her eyes. She looked so happy. Looking at the smiles on the mouse's snout made me feel great. The race across America had been an enormous challenge for me, but it was worth it. Bruce and I had an amazing adventure, and we were able to help some very special little mouselets. And given the chance, I knew I would do it again. Okay, guys, the story is finished. Yeah, I'll go back to the first one. So this is the story. This is the first page of the story. So I just want to do a tiny pause for my thumbnail. So give me a minute, okay? Just give me a minute. So this is the rest. Yeah, race of course. Okay, so I hope you like this video, guys. And if you're watching until now, a subscribe channel would be great and just awesome. And I hope you like this video. And actually, I did it in one part, so it was really hard for me because I'm speaking with no water, no food, and I'm quite happy. Thank you, guys. Bye. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.